Welcome to the Futures Lab. This is Jin. He is my very real life battle cat. There we go. And today we are going to be adding more cats to our battle cat game. So we're going to be adding in a big cat and then the biggest cat. And the good news is we're going to copy all the code that we've already set up for our cat and our cat button. So let's start off by creating a copy of our cat sprite. Okay, so go to the right side of the screen, look for your cat sprite, and then right click on it. Then normal click on duplicate. Yes, Jin, I know. And now we should have, oh, don't go for the microphone, I'm going to take you down now. Now we should have cat 2. We're going to rename cat 2 as big cat. And then we're going to make some changes to how the big cat sprite looks. So go to costumes in the top left corner. And what we're going to do is we're going to drag and select all of the bottom bits of the cat and make it bigger so that this cat looks big and beefy and strong. And I'm gonna make the arms a bit larger as well. Yeah, that looks pretty good. And we're gonna make the cat look more serious. So click on the head, go to the top, sort of click on where it says ungroup, where I'm wiggling my mouse here. And you should now be able to make this smile into a sort of straight, serious looking line. And then the final thing is I'm going to give our big cat a red bandana to make them look cool. So I'm going to make a rectangle, just a very little rectangle. I'm going to drag and angle this. Put that there. Then I'm going to do some more little rectangles and angle those. Let's Control C, Control V to copy that little rectangle and angle that. There we go. It's like a cool red bandana. Makes them look an action hero. And then what we need to do now is we need to copy. I need to grab that face. And we're going to need to click copy. And we need to go to the other costume, costume 2. And we need to go paste. Oh, let's bring the mouth as well. Copy and paste. That looks good. And then we need to do the same thing with the body of this one. And then just flick between the two costumes. I think that's pretty good. Maybe just a little bigger, not too much. Yep, that looks mostly fine. You can, of course, spend some time getting this the way you like it, or you could choose a different graphic, but I think this is just a cool, interesting thing to do. So we've got our big cat costumes working now. Let's go to the code. What do we need to change in our big cat? Well, first of all, let's make our big cat have more HP. So look for the code where it says, when I start as clone. Look underneath there, underneath show, it should have set HP to 10. Let's change that to 25, shall we? Now, the other thing that we need to do is we need to have a look at where it says check for enemies and if touching dog base. This is how much damage it deals to the dog base. So let's change that as well. Let's change it from -1 to, let's say, -2. Yeah, that seems good. And then the next thing that we need to do is look for define get thrown back. And you should find if thrown meter is more than 50. Well, we can change this so that they are harder to throw. They are harder for the dogs to throw backwards. So let's change that to if thrown meter is more than 100. Okay, that seems good. So now what we're going to do is we are going to duplicate our cat button. So select your cat button sprite on the right side, in the sort of bottom right part of the screen. Normal click on duplicate, and now we should have cat button 2. Let's rename this to big cat button. Oh, got caps lock on. Big cat button. Okay, and let's bring our graphics from the big cat across. So click on your big cat sprite, then go to costumes. Now select everything and copy. So you can press Ctrl+C, or you can press this copy button where I'm wiggling my mouse here. Then we're going to go to the big cat button. We're going to delete the original cat that is there. And then we're going to press paste or Ctrl+V. Now this is a bit big. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to group this where I'm wiggling my mouse here. If you click group, that will make sure that this whole graphic is part of the same group. So it's going to be a bit easier to change the size of it. So I'm going to shrink it down a little bit, but I think that's mostly fine. And I can move this a little bit as well. Now double click on your text, which says, currently it says 50. We're going to change that to 150. So you can make your box a bit larger to make it fit, or you can make your text a bit smaller. It's entirely up to you. I will make this box just a little bit bigger so that I can make this cat a little bit bigger. Okay, let's pull this button up here. Okay, that seems good. All right, so now we have a new button to create our big cat. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go to the code for our big cat button. Now have a look, and for when green flag clicked, we should have forever if current money is less than 50, because it was 50 in our old button, but now it is 150. So change that 50 to 150. So now it should say forever if current money is less than 150. And then it does the ghosting effect, or the clearing of the ghosting effect. Then look for when this sprite clicked, and it should have if current money is more than 49. Well, change that 49 to 149, and then change the where we've got change current money by -50, we should change it by -150. And then under where it says create clone of cat, we need to click that little white triangle and change that to big cat. Okay, so let's give this a test. We're going to hit go, and we're going to upgrade our max money, and then we're going to see if we can summon a big cat. Now there's a few things we haven't done yet. We haven't put the code into the dogs to respond to the big cat the same way as they respond to the cat. That's fine. We're going to do that. We're going to do that all at once we've made our next type of battle cat the bigger cat, or the biggest cat, whichever you prefer calling it. So let's click that. Great. We've summoned now the big cat. It's not going to respond to the dogs quite properly, but that's fine. That all seems to be working well. Okay, good. So now let's do this again, and we're going to make our biggest cat. So we're going to duplicate our big cat, and we're going to rename this as biggest cat. Then we're going to go to costumes, and I am going to select some costumes for my biggest cat that I think are, I'm going to select the lion costumes. I'm going to select Lion A. So once you're in your biggest cat, which would be duplicated from your big cat, then just go to the bottom left corner to choose a new costume and type in lion. I'm going to choose Lion A and Lion B. And then I'm going to delete these two costumes. So now we should have this biggest cat costume. And I'm going to make sure that this lion comes out really big. So I'm going to change the size of it to 50. Okay, that seems good. The next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to go to our big cat button. Actually, let's change the code for our biggest cat. So go to your biggest cat. And let's update the code here. So let's look for when I start as clone, show set HP to 25. Well, let's make this 100 HP. This is going to be our strongest battle cat in my version of the game. You, of course, can make even stronger battle cats than this if you like. Have a look for define check for enemies, and then look for if touching dog base. You should find in there change dog base HP by -2. Let's change that to -5. Our biggest cat is going to do 5 damage. And then look for the define get thrown back meter. And look for if thrown meter is more than 100. We're going to say if the thrown meter is more than 300. And then there's just one more thing, and this is optional. I'm going to remove the turn 18 degrees from our get thrown back code. This means that when this giant lion gets thrown back, it won't do this sort of crazy somersault, woo, because that looks a bit weird when it's this lion. It's just going to sort of go up like this and land like that, which is actually a bit more like the original Battle Cats in the Battle Cats game. If you've played that, that's kind of how they look when they're thrown back. They kind of just lift up and land. They don't do this sort of somersault as they get thrown. Okay, that's just a personal thing. That's only optional. Okay, so that's the code for our biggest cat, all taken care of. The next thing that we need to do is make our biggest cat button. So right click on our big cat button, duplicate, and rename this to biggest cat button. Let's have a look at the code. Well, let's go to the costumes. So I'm going to click on choose a costume in the bottom left corner. I'm going to look for Lion A. And then once I've got that costume, I'm going to select it. I'm going to copy. And then here, I'm going to delete our big cat graphic that we made and put in the biggest cat. Now I'm going to make this button a little bit larger so we can fit it in. And I'm going to change the amount to be 500. And what you might need to do now is if your button is a little too big, we might need to shrink our upgrade max money button. So I'm just going to make this a little bit smaller. And maybe just a little bit smaller again. So you can spend some more time getting your buttons nicely aligned at the top of the screen. You can make all your buttons a lot smaller than mine so you can fit more of them in if you like. That will do for now. It's not super neat, but you can spend some time making it so that your buttons are a bit more nicely lined up than mine. The other thing that I'm going to do is this lion tail is sort of sticks out to the left. Here's just a nice little thing, a nice little trick. On the biggest cat button, I'm going to go to looks, then I'm going to go to front layer, and change that to go to back layer, and double click on it, and now that lion tail is behind the button. You can just delete the tail from the costume if you like. That doesn't matter too much. But now we've got buttons more or less fit in there. That all seems good. So now what we're going to do is we're going to update all of the code inside if our biggest cat button. So look for when green flag clicked forever if current money less than 150. We need to change that, don't we? The biggest cat's going to be 500, which means that when we go down to when this sprite clicked, if current money is more than 499, change current money by -500 and create clone of, click on that white triangle and change it to biggest cat. Okay, so we've got all that working, and the only other thing, the thing that we need to change now is we need to look at the dog code. Now, we need to add in code for the big cat and the biggest cat. So first, let's look for define update throne meter. And then right click on that if, and then duplicate it, and you should have this copy of if touching cat, then change throne meter by pick random. And then do that again, duplicate the if, and you should have everything inside it. And now you should have these nice 3 copies of the same thing. So let's change the second one to if touching big cat. Make sure that it's big cat. There we go. If touching big cat, then change throne meter by, so let's say, shall we say pick random 10 to 20? That seems reasonable. That'll make the big cat throw the dogs faster. And then we're going to click on change the third if touching cat to if touching biggest cat. Change throne meter by, let's say, 30 to 60. That seems cool. Now what we need, so that's our throne meter code done. Now what we need to do is look for our if touching our define check for enemies. So now what we need to do is we need to make a bit of space. So I'm going to move this out of the way. I'm going to zoom out so you guys can see. We need to look for define check for enemies, and we need to grab our if touching cat base, drag that down and make some space for a gap there. And then what we're going to do is we're going to right click on our if touching cat then. So this bit here, right click on the if and duplicate. And then put it down there. Let's make some more space. Move you down as well. Do the same thing. Right click on the if touching cat, and now we can link them up. So now we should have if touching cat and stuff inside that, and then if touching cat size stuff and code inside of that, and another copy of our if touching cat. So you can see where this is going. We're going to go to the second if touching cat, click on that white triangle, change it to if touching big cat. So the brightness, that's fine, that can stay the same. Set state to fight, yeah, that's also fine. We want that to happen. How much damage do we want the big cat to do? I think we said it was 2, so let's change that to -2. and then go to our third if touching cat, change that to if touching biggest cat, and change HP by, let's say, -5. I think we said 5 damage from the biggest cat. You can change these numbers if you like. That's absolutely fine. Now that should be everything that we need to do. And if you want to make more enemies, this is where you'll need to put the code. You'll need to have additional if touching bigger cat or massive cat or hugely enormous cat, or whatever you choose to name your cats. And you can see why this, while it's nice and fun and fast, is going to very quickly become difficult to manage. We're going to have so many different bits of code to handle these different types of cats. And you can see why I mentioned at the beginning of episode 1 that ultimately the better way would be to build a system of cats that works using lists. And so don't forget to check out UJ's project to see a much neater way of doing this that would be much more expandable. But for now, I think we've got all of our code in that we need. So let's do ourselves a little cheat code, because if we want to test both of these buttons, it's going to take us a long time to build up to 150 money and then 500 money. So let's put ourselves a little cheat code in. I'm going to put the cheat code into the, let's put it into the shop. So click on the shop sprite, then go to events, the yellow category on the left. Now what we want to do is we want to get out when space key pressed. We're going to change that space to something else, like let's say Q. Just anything, so that this will be a secret cheat code that only you will know, and that's a button that you will press that will instantly give you 500 money. So then what we're going to do is going to go to variables, the dark orange category. We're going to drag out set variable. And what variable are we going to set? We're going to set the current money to 500, but we also need to have another set variable because we need to set our max money, our maximum money, also to be 500. So this is going to happen when we press the letter Q on our keyboard. So let's make this nice and big. Let's hit go and let's hit Q, and immediately we can buy now our biggest cat. There we go. That all seems good. And if I press Q again, we can buy some big cats. And you can see this biggest cat is really strong. It's immediately defeating these normal dogs. So now, and you might see as well that all of these cats are at slightly different heights. So I think we should fix that. Some of these cats are like a bit higher than others. So I reckon let's change that. That should be nice and easy to change. Let's go to the big cat and look around in your big cat clone in the code for when green flag clicked, go to X minus 180, Y minus 100. Let's change that to Y minus 90. And biggest cat, let's change the starting point there. When green flag clicked, go to X minus 180 and Y, should we say minus 80? That will make them both a bit higher. All right, let's give it another test. Let's use our cheat code. Or they might be a bit too high now. Yeah, I think they are. Yes, so let's change that. So obviously your graphics are going to be slightly different sizes to mine. So you can get this just right so that you're happy with it. Remember that how variables work. Okay. That's mostly fine. That seems mostly reasonable. They're mostly on the same height. Again, if you want to spend some time, you can get them on the height that you're really happy with. Because all the sprites are sort of different sizes, getting the height just right will just be a case of spending some time just sort of spending the time by some experimentation. Change that Y coordinate. In fact, I'll even do that now. 92, let's say, and let's say 93. Let's try that out of curiosity. Oh, that seems pretty good. Yeah. Okay. So that's everything we've got for today. So as I said, you can make more and more cats that you like. The problem is that this particular way, while it's fast and fun and doesn't involve us having to make tables and do some stuff that's a bit more complicated, it's going to become very quickly difficult to manage the more sprites that you put in. So just make sure that if you do want to put in a bunch of extra, different types of cats that you can buy, make sure that you keep on top of having the code and the dogs and the various types of dog enemies that you have, and just sort of spend some time making sure that everything's where it should be. If you need to, make sure that your code's nicely divided up so it's easy to find where everything should be. And next week we are going to be adding in more types of dog enemies, because as it stands we have all these cool battle cats and it's going to be really easy to win the game. So we need to find a way to make the game become harder the longer that we play it. And so tune in next week for how that's going to work. So until I see you guys next time, take care of yourselves, be cool to each other. We'll see you next time, guys.